The Steam Deck and pretty much every other handheld PC and console out there has just become an absolute nightmare for devs. Not all devs, but any devs that are using Unity. If you don't know what Unity is, it is essentially a game engine, and it is a very, very popular game engine. The other biggest, most popular game engine is the Unreal Engine, but a lot of people do use Unity in order to make their video games. And the reason that it just became a nightmare for game devs that make stuff for consoles and for handheld devices is because of storage issues. Now, this post over on Twitter was posted today. I'm reading this on September 12th, by the way. They said, "Today we announced a change to our business model, which includes new editions of our subscription plans and the inclusion of the runtime fee. We wanted to provide clarifying answers to the top questions most of you are asking. Yes, this is a price increase, and it will only affect a small subset of current Unity Editor users. Today, a large majority of Unity Editor users are currently not paying anything and will not be affected by this change. The Unity runtime fee will not impact the majority of our developers. The developers who will be impacted are generally those who have successful games and are generating revenue way above the thresholds we outlined in our blog. This means that developers who are still building their businesses and growing their audiences of the games will not pay a fee. The program was designed specifically this way to ensure that developers could find success before the install fee takes effect. We want to be clear that the counter for Unity runtime fee installs starts on January 1st, 2024. It is not retroactive or perpetual. We will charge once for a new install, not an ongoing perpetual license royalty like revenue share. We look for ways to lessen the impact on developers and provide ways to bring runtime fee down to zero. If you're using any of our ad products, Unity gaming services, or cloud services, please contact us to discuss discounts. We're actively listening and following your questions closely. Please review our FAQ on today's announcement. We will also invite you to continue to discuss these changes with us on our forums." So what exactly are they talking about here, and how is it bad for not only handheld PCs and consoles, but for people who play games on any of those devices, which I'm guessing is some of you?
Where is he? Hey, man.
Where have you been all day?
I've been at work.
What do you mean work? Since when do you work?
I have a day job, you know.
Whatever, man. I'm starving.
Well, why didn't you make something?
I don't know how to cook.
You don't need to know how to cook with Factor.
It's fall, it's back to school time. There are a lot of demands on our schedules, and if you are too busy to cook, that doesn't mean that you can't eat well. With Factor, you can skip the extra trip to the grocery store, the chopping, the prepping, the cleanup too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality that you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready to eat in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy, even if you don't know how to cook. And if you're looking for calorie-conscious options during the busy season, try these delicious dietitian-approved calorie-smart meals with around less than 550 calories per serving. I have to admit, I was pretty skeptical about Factor when I first heard about them, but I've got a full-time job, and then I've got my YouTube channel and podcast, which is almost like another job on top of that, so I don't get a lot of time to cook. Factor makes it easy. So head to factor75.com or use the link below, and at checkout use code NerdNest50 to get 50% off your first box. Again, factor75.com and use code NerdNest50 to support the channel. There's this new fee structure that's built into this, and it's called the Unity runtime fee. Big thanks to Liam for posting this up over at Gaming on Linux. He said in the announcement they call it the Unity runtime fee, which is based on qualifying a game being downloaded by users. They said they chose it because they believe an initial install-based fee allows creators to keep an ongoing financial gains from the player engagement, unlike revenue share. Given that it's a flat fee, though, this will likely sting game devs who sell games at a lower cost, since this fee will be on top of all their other fees, like Steam's 30% cut. So what does that mean? Well, basically, it means that it is going to encourage devs to raise the price of their games. There's a lot of really, really great games that are sold really cheap, both on the PC and on the consoles. And if I'm a dev who is suddenly going to get charged on top of all of the other fees that I'm paying, well, it's going to encourage me to raise the price of my game. So you are about to start paying more for your games thanks to this. But it doesn't even stop there, though. It's about to get a whole lot worse, because check out this tweet from Stephen Totillo. I got some clarifications from Unity regarding their plan to charge developers per game install after clearing thresholds. If a player deletes a game and reinstalls it, that's 2 installs and 2 charges, and it's the same if you install it in more than one location. So here is the really big issue here, because what happens when you talk about handheld PCs and you talk about consoles, one of the nightmares that we have these days that really drives me crazy is the fact that we constantly have to manage our storage. One of the things that I love about cloud gaming, things like Stadia, rest in peace, and GeForce Now and stuff like that, is that I don't have to worry about how much hard drive I have. So I just play a game and I never have to think about, is this installed, is that installed? I don't have to update it. None of that. Since I started playing a lot more games on my handheld PCs, I have to manage my hardware or my software a whole lot more, because especially on PC, a lot of devs, they just don't care about how big their games are. On console, I feel like devs are encouraged by Xbox and Sony and definitely Nintendo to manage how big their file sizes get, because they understand that people have a very limited amount of storage on those systems. But on PCs, people have huge hard drives, and because the hard drives are so big, most of the time the devs just don't care if you have a 200 gig game. And because of that, I often have to uninstall a game in order to install some other game. Now, I like to try a lot of different games, which means I'm uninstalling and reinstalling stuff all of the time. And this is an absolute nightmare for any devs that used Unity and are above the thresholds, because I am actively costing them money every single time that I do this. Now, maybe you don't really care about the devs. You're like, well, that's their problem. They're making money. They got to pay some money. That's not really a big deal. I mean, hey, I'm a podcaster. I got to spend money to make my business work. I have to spend money on microphones and mixers and cameras and all this other stuff. I have subscription fees to software that I use in order to make my podcast work. So it's understandable. You got to spend money to make money. But here's the thing. How are they tracking this? How do they know when your game, when your system, your hardware, how do they know when you uninstall a game and then reinstall a game? How do they know if you've installed it in multiple locations? How do they know if you decided to use Steam, like this new feature, I don't think it's a new feature, but the feature in Steam that allows you to install over your home network. So if I have it installed on computer A and I decide, hey, I want to install it on computer B, instead of pulling the software, the bits down from Steam, I just send it from one computer to the other, skipping over Steam entirely. How does Unity know when I'm downloading stuff, when I'm installing stuff, and when I'm deleting stuff? Like, that's a privacy concern, because I don't know about you, I don't have a deal with Unity, and it is none of their damn business what I am doing with my computer and my hardware and my software that I paid for. I get the idea that they're trying to find another way to gain revenue. I don't know off the top of my head if they're a publicly traded company. I'm going to assume that they are, and they have to maximize profit for their shareholders. If they don't do everything that they can to maximize profit for their shareholders, then they could get in trouble with their shareholders. But guess what? I'm not a shareholder, and I don't care, and that's not my friggin' problem. So the idea that they're watching what's happening on your hardware is nonsense. And that's what Twitter user Cactus VR Studios said to Unity. They said, how are installs tracked? And here's what Unity said. We leverage our own proprietary data model, so you can appreciate that we won't go into that in a lot of detail, but we believe it gives an accurate determination of the number of times the runtime is being distributed for a given project, which is absolutely crazy. That's like saying, hey, we're going to charge you, but we're not going to tell you, where this money came, like where the price came from. It's none of your business where the price came from. Just give us the money. If they can't tell the publishers exactly how they arrived at how much the publishers owe, then that's incredibly opaque and not a very good way to do business. This completely disincentivizes publishers to make demos, do like charity keys. They're probably going to be less likely to give out keys to reviewers, which means that people who are watching, the kind of content and looking for reviews on games, they're less likely to get information from a wide variety of sources. It's just going to be the big ones. Like if you're making a game and you get charged for every single install, are you going to send a key to Bill at the NerdNest? No. You're only going to send the key to the big dogs, the really, really big ones, which means people like myself and other content creators out there are going to be playing less of these games to tell you what we think of them. And I love the part where they talk about, oh, don't worry, this doesn't go into effect until January 21st, 2024. But guess what? Making video games, I don't know if you guys are aware about this, it takes a long friggin' time to make video games. I guarantee that there's people who have been working on a game that uses Unity, and they've been working on it for years. And then it's going to come out after January 1st, 2024, under this new deal that they didn't know existed when they decided to use Unity as an engine. And there's going to be people who say, well, they should just make their own engine, comments like that. And I don't agree with that. There's a reason why devs use things like Unity and the Unreal Engine. It's because it makes their lives easier and they can make games faster. And if they can make games faster, then we get more games. And what's even worse is this actively disincentivizes devs from making their games optimized for these handheld PCs because they have very small storage footprints. And because they have small storage footprints, they know that their game's going to get uninstalled so that they can reinstall it later, like a lot. And because of that, they're going to say, well, I'm not going to make sure that I have a good Steam Deck profile because I'd prefer that people are just playing on their big PCs. And people will say, well, they can't ignore the Steam Deck because it's too popular. And while it might be really popular, especially in the bubble that we're in right here, it's like at most there's like 3 million Steam Decks sold. That's a drop in the absolute bucket. Yes, I constantly talk about how awesome that the Steam Deck is doing, and as far as handhelds go, it's doing really, really well. But we got to be honest here. When you compare it to PC gaming as a whole, and then the entire gaming industry beyond that, the Steam Deck, like 3 million units, it's going to be very hard to convince devs of Unity that they need to really pay attention to us. And that is an absolute shame. But what do you guys think about it? Do you think that Unity is doing the right thing? Like maybe they're going to force devs to decrease the size of their games? Or do you think it's a huge overreach? I think you guys know where I stand on this, but I can't wait to hear your comments down below. By the way, if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy this one right here, or maybe it's over there. I don't know. From the NerdNest, I'm Bill. Stay rad, everybody.